Okay, so here's what we are looking at. It's a twin shock frame. Basically, we've got a concentric pivot here, so you can see that the whole rear triangle is rotating. If I do it from here, it's a bit more visible. It's rotating around the bottom bracket. So this is actually beautiful for things like fixed gear or single speed. So the chain length does not change at all in the suspension travel. Now the issue with this is that the bushing here was completely gone. These bushings for the rear suspension and see if we can make some replacements. So I've got these Cane Creek Thudbuster seat post ones as a potential replacement. So maybe start with the cleaning. Bottom washer, same as on the drive side. This is what it looks like inside. That's our rubber outside taken off. No, this is someone's home job, that's for sure. It's basically just, it looks like it's just wrapped electrical tape. Let's have a look. Beautiful. Love seeing setups like this. So obviously what's happened here is someone's run the bike, they've run out of bushing in the back. They've decided that the way to fix that is just by rolling a whole roll of electrical tape onto the core. I'm just trying to figure out, there seems to be this plastic part that is intact on the top. So that seems to be some kind of a cap or something. So what we have, we've got the bottom washer, the top washer, which is, oh, okay. So there's a little bit of the cap left on the other side as well. So maybe, that's curious. No, this is just the bushing, like it's just this kind of weird blue gummy stuff. Anyway, we'll just cut it off because we need this washer anyway. I'm actually not even convinced that these washers are original. Right, so we've got our rubbery outer, which is potentially, not sure if that's even some kind of tape itself. We've got this reveal thing from the middle. We've got more of this rubbery stuff. So all of that is basically, it's all rubbish except for the washers and maybe that bit there. So we're just gonna clean these up a bit. See if I can. So yeah, this is super sticky. It feels like hardened grease. So sometimes when you pull apart vintage bikes and stuff, they have this grease that's been sitting there for probably decades and it's all kind of sticky and yuck. This is what I mean with the grease, the comments as before. So often you find that like there's some grease or sticky stuff on a surface and it's not really coming off, it's just like smearing across it. So it does, when you keep rubbing, it'll come off ultimately, but it's not easy to get it off. Yeah, sometimes the easiest just to scrape stuff like this off if you can. Yeah, these washers look weird. They've got like, it's not. Ah, okay, I get it. Someone's enlarged the middle. Yeah, very hard to say whether there's anything original in these, except I do think this is likely original because that's exactly the right size, and the correct bolt that was on the bike goes through it, so that's likely part of the original setup. Another handy tool is the trusty old screwdriver. A flathead, always useful for many things. Whilst we are at it, we're just going to clean up the drive side bushing as well, which is likely to be very much the same as the other side. So we've got our bottom. The other thing, just on the frame itself, I could see basically runs of leaked internals from these bushings. So that could be, it's unlikely that it's the stuff that you're looking at here, but possibly the originals. Sometimes, you do have bushings that are filled, like liquid filled. So maybe one of them has punctured and leaked, or just worn out and leaked because of that. So that's our made up bushing. I don't think it's even got the plastic cap in there like the other one did. Let's have a look. There's kind of something a bit harder in the middle, so I'm just gonna see if I can split this in two. Yeah, okay. So it does have the same plastic thing inside. Ah, you know what? They've just used that as that's the spacer that is moving basically around the shaft or the core. There we go. Oh, there's more plastic in here. So this might be part of the original bushing, possibly. Very perished. Anyway, actually, yeah, maybe that is part of the original as well, because I can see the same kind of 4 dots, or what do you call them? They are like marks from the manufacturing process. So yeah, it's possible that some of this stuff is original. This is definitely not original. Yeah, so degreaser is awesome for like standard oils and chain oil and things like that. What it's not awesome for is like a rubbery compound, so it doesn't really kind of break it down the same, and it doesn't come off as easily. You can see here that we've got still a lot of residue from that rubber on these washers. Probably not gonna reuse them necessarily, but might as well clean them whilst we are at it. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. That's the bottom, let's say the bottom cap. Then we've got the bushing in the middle there. Then we've got the compression ring, if you like. And then we could use something like this as the end cap. So then hopefully, the theory goes, we have the suspension, like the rubber bushing compressing, but this bond follow the axle or the core. And yeah, if you're curious as to why would you use rubber bushings that are not the right size or anything, I had a look online, and the this type of like old school bushing for exactly this bike is near impossible to find. So I think you could have maybe ordered something from the US or something and waited a couple of weeks for it to arrive. I thought I'd get, you know, close enough locally. Another thing you can try if you know, degreaser doesn't work is orange power. So this is pretty good for, it's actually excellent for getting stickers off and stuff like that. So for the more sticky stuff, it tends to work a little bit better than just a degreaser. Let's have a look if it makes a dent on this. Yeah, I think it does actually. So you can see by the paper towel that, you know, a lot of gunk is coming out. So this is what the Cane Creek, so that's a Cane Creek Thudbuster long travel rubber bush. So what we want to do is we want to drill out the middle, which obviously is going to make this, so this is a firm, and I specifically got that looking at the weight charts and stuff. So this is quite hard, like I can't really press it in with my hand at all, with my fingers. But once I drill the middle out, it's going to be a little bit, you know, softer because it's lost a lot of material. So what we need in terms of size is this kind of axle, if you like, That's about 12 mil. So we need to drill this out to 12 mil so that then the rubber can compress around this core. And then I was thinking that, like, I'm not really liking the look of those washers there, but what we would need to do is we can probably fix one end, so the end that is against the rear triangle. So we should be able to do something like this, maybe. So we'll basically use a couple of these guys. So that's gonna be the bottom end. Just gotta make sure that the bolt, which I do have somewhere, actually it's on the bike, the bolt will go through the middle, so that'll hold the tail end, and then this rubber bush will sit around this core. So a bit like that, if you can imagine it, and then that's gonna compress there. But obviously the middle has to be bigger, and then we need another washer on the other side to take the weight of the other side, and that needs to be something that fits over the core. So I need to drill stuff out to, so both a washer like this, or maybe one of these, which is also not big enough. I think that's about 10 mil, so M10 needs to be drilled out to 12, and then this needs to be drilled out to 12 as well. So the tricky part is that I now need a drill bit that is 12 mil, which I don't think I have. So I gotta go looking for one of those. We've got our drive side set up, and that's the bush that is gonna go on there. We've got our non-drive side set up on this side. So that's that. And yeah, we'll try and put it all back together once I get that drill bit for 12 mil. Something like that. So that's our 8, and then we'll go 10. Yep, that's pretty well centered, that's good. Just check that we've got, so that's now saying 9.6, and I was using a, what is it, 9.9 drill bit. That's kind of interesting, so feels like it's not entirely round, maybe. So that was the same, so that's still the 10 mil drill bit. .7, so that's much better than before. Okay, and then we'll go the final size. So I'm just going to double check that this is indeed, so 11.9 is what we want ultimately. Again, I am sure that there are much better ways for doing this kind of stuff, but I am not aware of them, so I'm just gonna hack it. A little bit smelly. Okay, so what we have is, okay, that's not ideal. So I did actually deform the hole at the other end, so you can see that. It's still okay at the other side. So you really don't want to run it for very long. It's not perfect. And also it is quite tight. So that's the theory. So that's our notionally 12mm hole, which is probably more like 11.5, around the 11.9 shaft of the suspension. But I don't know that it's got enough space to actually move and compress, so we'll have to figure that out next. Gotta get this a bit broader. So what I'm gonna do, I'm actually gonna drill it from the opposite end, the one that is a little bit widened. So the theory is that there's more wiggle at the far end of the drill bit. So we can probably widen it a bit more evenly that way around. Let's see. Let's try something different. So this is just a bit of poly pipe. I've cut it for another silly project previously, and I'm just gonna do this. So that hopefully should hold it a bit better without having to squish it too much. No. Okay. That's still not ideal. That's better. Okay, so we've got, it's definitely a larger hole now. Obviously it's not super even, but I didn't expect it to be, so one side, other side. So now, because I've removed material, you can see that I can actually squish it by hand, even though this is the firm version. So hopefully, let's see how we go with one of these guys now. Yeah, so now it's, yeah, now there's definitely more space, so I can move, like it's not jamming, which is really good. So you can see that that's the kind of gap there. And opposite side, so there's a bit there too. I'm just going to do just a little bit more. It's an oval shape, so I want to broaden it that way as well. So I'm going to clamp it from this side, and hopefully that'll then yep, so that's a bit more round now, not quite as ovalized. And I don't want to overdo it, but yeah, that should do. That's pretty good. So now let's just take a bolt. So this is not the right bolt, obviously. It's just to test the theory, but just to kind of demonstrate how I imagine this to work. So we've got our bottom clamp, like so. We've got our bolt going through. So let's say that that's our rear triangle there. And then we'll put something so the shape of this thing, it's kind of, if I just point, so imagine a profile here, so it's flat on that side, but it's actually kind of like a triangular, like an angled cutout, and then the middle bit. So that this is at an angle, it's probably roughly, it's not quite 45, let's say it's like 35 degrees or something like that there. Like that's the angle. So whereas this is a sharp angle there, so I'm not getting like an exact snug fit there, but if I put something like another washer, if I had one, let's try something different again. So we know that we need 12 mil to go over the shaft. Okay. Yep, don't do this at home. Not ideal. You really want to have a bench drill for this kind of stuff. This is ridiculous using just a hand drill, but it is what it is. Right, so we've got our enlarged bore washer. I'm just gonna file it a little bit. So given that this is gonna be okay. That's pretty good. Actually files pretty quickly. One thing I wish I had was just a larger drill bit, so it's often really nice to be able to kind of get the burr off a freshly drilled metal hole using a larger drill bit, but I don't actually. Look at that. That could work. It's obviously not designed for this, but we will try it anyway. Nice. So that's one. Oh, that's good. And then we'll make another one. Hopefully it will be a little bit quicker. Never know. And then I'm still going to file the edge a tiny little bit.
Hey, trying to go for a walk?
Cool, look at that. Perfect. All right, so we've got our left and right end washer, and we can use those guys as the bottom washer. So there's our setup. How's that? That's pretty cool. Okay, just gotta make the other rubber and that's it. All right, we're gonna do this other side now. So basically one more rubber to figure out pushing. So this is our first build, one side, and then we'll do this other side now. So here's our Thudbuster LT elastomer hard number 7 black. So you can see there it's a Cane Creek, and we're just gonna mod that to fit around the shaft of this short travel shock setup. We're gonna do this a bit smarter this time. And again, I don't want to have it too tight to not have the hole too kind of elongated. Just like to spin, doesn't it? So that's our kind of roughly 12 mil. You can see that it's not centered fully. So that's the hard thing. So still not very centered on that side. It's a bit offset on that side too. Let's have a look how. Okay, so it's still a bit tight, so I've got to keep going. Just gonna try. Starting to be a little bit better, but still not perfect. Maybe I'll switch this around. So yeah, so it's yeah, you definitely can't get the. I don't know if it's visible in the video, but if you look at the inside edge, it's not straight, so it's not really that easy to do a full straight bore into the rubber, which is understandable, but like that, for the purposes of what we are trying to do here, I think that's good enough. Again, just to show you the gaps. So yeah, definitely not super round that edge, and even less so here, but it's serviceable. So we've got our bottom washer, we've got our shaft, we've got our bushing, and then we're going to do our top washer. I'm just going to have the more rounded side towards the rubber there, and I'll do the same on this side. Again, that's just how these guys are stamped, so you can see that the edge here is slightly more rounded than on the opposite side, so I just want to have that against the rubber. Theory being it might perish a little bit less that way. So anyway, that's our new bushing. Fingers crossed it will all work. Okay, so in theory that's the job done. Again, I don't know whether this amount of travel is going to be enough or not. So we've got, what do we have? The bushing is, so just to give you measurements, so this is 25.5, so it's basically 1 inch diameter. It's now got a 12 mil just over center bore, and then the length is 32 mil, 32.2. So that's our bushing that's going to go on the bike. Whether that's the correct amount of travel for that frame and that suspension setup, we don't know yet, but we'll figure that out. What I was going to say is that there's this bit of a riser here, so I'm not sure if I need to space that out and then just have the rest of the shaft as it would normally sit here, but so that the bushing starts from that point onwards, or whether the bushing will actually fit into this. It's almost like a seat or cradle there. This is the shaft that I was talking about before, so that sits there. And now the question I was trying to figure out just then is, does this guy, which is my new bushing, so this might sit around that base there, and it does. That's beautiful. Okay, so I don't think I need to space that out. So that diameter there must be then very similar to what I've got in my hand. Yes, it is. Okay. Well, we'll just try and build it out. I can see there's plastic here. So what I want to avoid is when the suspension is kind of compressing, I don't want this to be scraped by the washer if I can help it. So I did make a couple of washers, like custom washers like this, so that could sit around the shaft and move back and forth as the suspension moves. But maybe I'll just leave that out as well. We'll just try it out. We'll try it plain, but I'm just gonna pop this there, and then actually let's do it this way around. Beautiful, okay. And in theory, I might be able to get the bolt through the shaft, which is probably too far out now. Okay, so you can see the end of the bolt there. And then I'm just gonna, I think this whole assembly might be too short. I don't know that we'll be able to get the bolt in far enough into the other side. So I do probably need some kind of spacers here. So maybe the original, yeah, that's right. So that's the bolt tied up there, and I've got another, that's probably, 10-15 mil of travel there. So that didn't quite work the way I expected to, but not to worry. So probably with this setup, our travel is going to be more limited than it originally would have been. So I'm going to try a couple of things to try and space this out. I might sleeve it on this side. So then the bolt, I don't have to, because what I really want to have, I want to make sure that these ends are as flat as possible. It feels like, so we might be hitting stuff here already. Like it feels like the triangle's too close to the seat tube. So I do probably have to space it out on that outer side rather than here on the inside. So that's my bolt, basically as tight as it can go. So that's the amount of space. So these are still not fully clamped in, but that's roughly the amount of spacing that I think I need. So probably, what would that be? 15-ish mil, maybe 12, 13, something like that. So effectively, I gotta figure out something that is of the same size as this, the cylinder shape, probably like an aluminium. That would be actually really nice to have, kind of just aluminium bar that is the same thickness as this diameter, which is probably about 1 inch, and just extend, like just put it there to hold the rear side of, to space out that end bit there, and I reckon that'll do it. So what I found in the archives is kind of plastic cylinders like this. The bore is a little bit too small for the purpose I need it for, but I've just enlarged that here. This is a one of the same. It's a little bit bigger, so it's now a 12 mil center, and then also shortened it to fit that space. So I'm just gonna do the same to this other piece and see how we go. So we've got our 10 mil here. This one as well. So here's the shaft. Let's just see if this fits in here. It may not just yet, but we'll have a look. Yeah, it's a little bit tight. So maybe what we'll do is just flip this. Normally, seems to be the case that when you drill with a wobbly tool like the hand drill, it just seems to kind of oval out the bore a little bit on the opposite side. So let's see what happens now. Okay, now it's feeling like it might in fact work. It's interesting because this is, I think it's being kind of manufactured from two different sides. So it feels like there's a ridge in the middle. So the bore, sorry, not the bore, the shaft gets a little bit stuck on that middle bit. That's it. So now we've got good movement. There's not, like it's pretty circular. You can see there's no gap like with the rubber. So just to give you a comparison, this is the rubber that's been enlarged previously. So that's your Cane Creek there, and that's definitely a lot more oversized than this hard plastic piece. Now, the next thing we gotta do is shorten this to the correct length. So here's the one that I did before. So we need to have this one exactly the same. So let's see how we achieve that. So what I've done here is I've taken the already previously shortened rubber piece, cylinder, and I've just marked it with a piece of tape. So basically when I cut exactly along the edge of that masking tape there. Just gonna use a tube. This is basically for shortening steerers and stuff like that. So it's just a holder for, you know, a tube-shaped object. We're gonna pop. Just gonna double check that my measurement's correct. Yep, that seems about right. Actually, I really want to have it there. My tape's not entirely straight, so. So the way I've set it up is you wanna lead the tape. So I'm just gonna cut alongside the tape. So hopefully that's about right. See how we go. Here's our offcut. Seems reasonably straight. Always a tricky thing with even a support thing like this to get the tube cut straight, but that does actually look okay. So here's our original on the right and the newly cut piece on the left. Just gonna file this a little bit. It is hard plastic, but not like mega hard. So it's, yeah, it's actually quite good to work with for this kind of purpose. So here's our piece, a little bit more there. So again, for demonstration, so what we want to have is our spacer effectively moving around the shaft there, and then our actual compressing part, which is the bushing itself, and that's the unit that we have. So hopefully this being clamped into the kind of between the rear triangle and the main frame itself will give us a reasonable approximation of what the original bushing was like. Let's see. So this is what actually was inside. Both sides perished, but there's been a bit of a kind of plastic washer here just on the inside. So presumably that's to take some of the energy when the suspension, like when you jump the bike up and the whole rear drops down. So rather than being kind of metal on metal with washers here, it's had this little kind of backstop bit. So obviously I don't have anything like this in stock. So what I've done instead is I've taken, as you do, that's a little plastic washer from just a tap washer, and it was perfect size. So I've just put it there on the bolt itself. However, so that's the original that had the 3 washers, which I think someone's added there at some point. I think we only need 1, so just to give us a little bit more length of the bolt. So that's the theory. So we're just gonna try, I'm just gonna do the rear side first. So we're gonna use that as the rear bolt. Just pop it in there. And yeah, both sides had that blue original washer kind of all perished in there, which I've taken out. So non-drive side. So what I also want to do is, there's a couple of things to this puzzle. So we've got kind of like a flat surface here on the frame side. We've got another flat surface here on the rear triangle side. Obviously, when like this movement is circular, so there's going to be a little bit of with a straight bolt, there's going to be a little bit of a bend. So what I want to make sure is that make both sides seal or sit as flat as possible. Now, from memory, so this is my hard rubber bit. This is not the compressing like suspension bit. So I'm just going to see if that goes on the frame side at all. And it doesn't look like it wants to do that. So it's a little bit like this here is slightly larger than 12 mil. So a little bit bigger than the shaft. So probably what I gotta do then is I just have to accept that this might sit at a slight angle there. So see, let's just have a look. We're gonna try this out. So shaft, spacer, hard plastic. See if I can get that. Maybe it's gonna go in. So that's better. And then we've got our Cane Creek Thudbuster. So we'll just put that there. So that's our actual compressing bit. And then the bolt, this is the front side. Like so. And yeah, I've got the dishwasher here taking up, you know, if there's any slack at any point. Here's what I prepared earlier. So exact same setup. Try it this way. So see, there's a bit more slack on the rubber on the bushing side. So that sits nicely against these extruded parts on the rear triangle side. So that's our setup. And then we'll just see if we can connect it all up. It's amazing how much travel there is in the concentric pivot here, because obviously the frame itself only allows like a tiny little bit. So it'd be really interesting to run this with like a more proper, you know, shock here. Obviously it's not designed for that, but just as a thought experiment. Okay, that's our non-drive side bolt. Drive side bolt. That feels like it's engaging now, that's good. So we've got drive side kind of there. And non-drive side. And you can see here now, I'm getting a little bit of compression on the bushing itself, which is good. That's what we want. Almost like preload, if you like. Nice. So that's a DIY version of like very short travel elastomer bushed rear suspension. So this is a twin shock from early 90s, and it's got this crazy setup here. Like the whole frame is just unreal. But yeah, hopefully with this it's rideable. That's basically the setup. It remains to be seen if it's how rideable it is. There's so little trouble though. It's effectively a hardtail, despite the very elaborate concentric pivot here. But yeah, it should be a fun bike.